Welcome back, guys. This is the next chapter of Wonder. This is called The Performance Space. Charlotte basically didn't stop talking as we headed down to the second floor. She was describing a play they'd put on last year, which was Oliver. She played Oliver, even though she's a girl. And as she said this, she pushed open the double doors to a huge auditorium. And at the other end of the room was a stage. Charlotte started skipping towards the stage. Julian ran after her and then turned around halfway down the aisle. "Come on," he said loudly, waving for me to follow him, which I did. "There were like hundreds of people in the audience that night," Charlotte said, and it took me a second to realise that she was still talking about Oliver. I was so nervous. I had so many lines and I had all these songs to sing. It was so hard. And although she was talking to me, she didn't really look at me much. On opening night, my parents were all the way back in the auditorium, like where Jack is right now. But when the lights are off, you can't really see that far back. So I was like, where are my parents? Where are my parents? And then Mr. Resnick, our theatre arts teacher, he was like, okay. And then, "Charlotte, stop being such a diva." And I was like, okay, breathe. And then I spotted my parents. I was totally fine. I didn't forget a single line. While she was talking, I noticed Julian staring at me out of the corner of his eye. This is something that I notice people do a lot with me. They think I don't know that they're staring, but I can tell from the way their heads are tilted. I turned around to see where Jack had gone to, and he'd stayed in the back of the auditorium like he was bored. "We put a play on every year," Charlotte said. "I don't think he's going to want to do a school play, Charlotte," said Julian sarcastically. "Well, you can be in the play without actually being in the play," Charlotte answered, looking at me. "You could do lighting, you could do backdrops." "Oh yeah, whoopee," said Julian, twirling his finger in the air. "But you don't have to take the theatre arts elective if you don't want to," Charlotte said, shrugging. "There's dance or chorus or band, there's leadership." "Only dorks take leadership," Julian interrupted. "Julian, you are so obnoxious," said Charlotte, which made Julian laugh. "I think I'm going to take the science elective," I said. "Cool," said Charlotte. Julian looked directly at me. "The science elective is supposedly the hardest elective of all," he said. "No offence, but if you've never ever been in a school before, why do you think you're suddenly going to be smart enough to take the science elective? I mean, have you ever even studied science before? Like, real science, not like the kind of science you get in kits." "Yeah," I nodded. "He was homeschooled, Julian," said Charlotte. "So teachers came to his house?" asked Julian, looking puzzled. "No, his mother taught him," answered Charlotte. "Is she a teacher?" Julian said. "Is your mother a teacher?" Charlotte asked me. "No," I asked. "So she's not a real teacher?" said Julian, as if that proved his point. "That's what I mean. How can someone who's not a real teacher actually teach you real science?" "I'm sure you'll be fine," said Charlotte, looking at me. "Let's just go to the library now," Jack called out, sounding really bored. "Why's your hair so long?" Julian said to me. He sounded like he was annoyed. I didn't really know what to say, so I just shrugged. "Can I ask you a question?" he said. I shrugged again. "Then you just asked me a question." "What's the deal with your face? I mean, were you in a fire or something?" "Julian, that's so rude," said Charlotte. "I'm not being rude," said Julian. "I'm just asking a question. Mr. Tushman said we could ask questions if we wanted to." "Not rude questions like that, Julian," said Charlotte. "Besides, he was born like that. That's what Mr. Tushman said. You just weren't listening." "I was listening," said Julian. "I just thought maybe he was in a fire too." "Jeez, Julian, shut up," said Jack from the back. "You shut up," said Julian, yelling. "Come on, August," said Jack. "Let's just go to the library already." I walked towards Jack and followed him out of the auditorium. He held the double doors open for me, and as I passed by, he looked at me right in the face, kind of daring me to look back at him, which I did. And then I actually smiled. I don't know, sometimes when I have the feeling like I'm going to cry, it turns into an almost laughing feeling, and that must have been the feeling I was having because I smiled, almost like I was going to giggle. The thing is, because of the way my face is, people who don't know me very well don't always get that I'm smiling. My mouth doesn't really go up at the corners the way other people's mouths do. It just goes straight across my face. But somehow Jack Will got that I smiled back, and he smiled back too. "Julian's a jerk," he whispered before Julian and Charlotte reached us. But dude, you're gonna have to talk to us, he said. He said it like he was being serious, like he was trying to help me out. I nodded as Julian and Charlotte caught up to us. We were all quiet for a second, all of us just kind of nodding, looking at the floor. Then I looked up at Julian. The word supposedly, by the way, I said. What are you talking about? Well, before you said supposedly. I didn't. Yeah, you did, Charlotte nodded. You said the science elective is supposedly really hard. I heard you. I absolutely did not, he insisted. Whatever, said Jack. Just let's go. Yeah, let's go, said Charlotte, following Jack down the stairs to the next floor. I started to follow her, but Julian cut right in front of me, which actually made me stumble backward. Oops! Sorry about that, he said. But I could tell by the way he looked at me that he wasn't sorry at all.